They didn't walk away because you were too kind. They walked away because you were too predictable, too available, too easy to read, too easy to control. That's the truth. No one wants to admit. Not because it's wrong, but because it hurts too much to accept. You thought your silence made you noble, but they saw it as weakness. You believed your forgiveness was strength. They took it as fear. You thought you were waiting for them to see your worth. But in reality, you were giving it away, piece by piece. In a world addicted to noise, the quiet one is overlooked. In a world driven by reaction, the calm one is underestimated. And then, one day, you begin to ask yourself, why does sincerity get punished? Why does loving deeply push people away? The answer: because you showed too much. You spoke too soon. You let them read you before you ever knew their intent. In the eyes of the world, whatever is predictable will never be respected. Machiavelli never taught people to be cruel. He taught them how to be dangerous without being loud. He taught the power of restraint, of silence, of being unreadable, until it's already too late. This video isn't for the weak. It's not for the ones who crave to be loved. It's for the one who's done proving their worth and ready to become untouchable. Because the moment they can't read you anymore is the moment they start respecting you. There is a kind of pain most men never speak about. Not because it's small, but because it's humiliating. It's the pain of being too available and still ignored. The pain of doing everything right and still being treated like an option. The pain of showing up fully, vulnerably, sincerely, only to be met with silence, rejection, or worse, manipulation. No one teaches you what to do when your kindness becomes your weakness, when your calm becomes invisible, when your love becomes a burden they no longer appreciate. So you start questioning everything: your worth, your dignity, your instincts. You wonder, was I too much? Or was I simply too easy to get? There is no louder heartbreak than the kind that happens quietly. No deeper betrayal than the kind you keep to yourself. And that's what makes this pain so dangerous. It doesn't scream. It simmers. It shapes how you walk through the world. You stop trusting your own emotions. You start second-guessing every moment of honesty. You put a leash on your truth, not because it's wrong, but because it was once punished. That's how self-doubt is born, not through failure, but through repeated invalidation. You gave too much, too early. You tried to explain your worth instead of letting it speak for itself. You kept proving, hoping, reaching, and all they saw was need. All they felt was control. Because in this world, the moment they sense you need them, they stop needing you. You tried to earn respect with love, but they respected what you didn't give away. You tried to gain closeness by opening up, but they only value what they have to work for. And here's the part no one talks about. They didn't hurt you by accident. They hurt you because they could. Because you let them believe you'd stay no matter what. Because you responded every time. Because you never let them feel the weight of losing you. So now, you carry a quiet grief. The kind of grief that doesn't get sympathy because no one sees it. It hides behind jokes, behind busyness, behind pride. But it's there. Every time you bite your tongue, when someone crosses the line, every time you fake indifference, when you're actually boiling inside, every time you shrink yourself, just to keep the peace. That's the hidden pain, not just of rejection, but of self-abandonment. And the truth is, you didn't lose their respect. You never had it. Because you were too accessible, too transparent, too responsive. You let them see everything. And in a Machiavellian world, what is fully seen is rarely valued. So what do you do with that pain? You stop explaining. You stop trying to be understood. You stop thinking that being chosen is the prize. Because it's not. The real prize is becoming someone they can't read. Someone who doesn't flinch. Someone who doesn't chase, even when they want to. Someone who doesn't need, even when they feel deeply. Machiavelli warned us, it is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. And today, that principle still stands, because in a world that exploits softness, your survival depends on how well you can hide your hunger. This isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming calm, solid, strategic, and unshakable. You will still feel deeply, but now, you will not hand those feelings to people who haven't earned them. That is where your power begins. What if I told you that your pain was never personal? That the reason you were overlooked, taken for granted, emotionally dismissed, wasn't because something was wrong with you, but because you walked into a world wired to exploit your emotional honesty. Strip this down to its raw form. Society doesn't reward sincerity. It rewards strategy. In every room, the person who speaks less holds more power. The one who seems like they don't care gets pursued. The one who reacts the least gets respected the most. Why? Because in the psychological landscape of human behavior, mystery equals power, predictability equals control. And when someone can predict your feelings, your hunger, your emotional rhythm, they feel entitled to exploit it. We are biologically wired to chase what moves away, to crave what doesn't need us, to respect what we can't fully grasp. That's not cruelty. That's nature. So when you gave your attention easily, you taught them it wasn't valuable. When you forgave without boundaries, you taught them your pain had no price. When you kept showing up even when they disrespected you, you taught them they never had to earn you. And here's the deeper mechanism. This world doesn't teach emotional discipline. It teaches emotional performance. Smile. Bekind. Be available. Be open. Until the moment you're no longer useful. Then, vanish. We live in an age where silence is feared, but noise is exploited. And the most painful part, they didn't walk away because they didn't care. They walked away because they thought you never would. That's what happens when you're always reachable, always proving, always explaining. So what's the antidote? It's not to stop caring. It's to care with strategy, to master the art of emotional control. Because if you don't control your access, someone else will control your worth. Make your presence feel earned again. Not by being arrogant, but by being selective. You don't owe everyone your attention. You don't owe everyone your story. And you definitely don't owe anyone your reaction. Because power is not how much you feel. It's how much you choose to show. Machiavelli taught this clearly. A leader must appear composed even in chaos. He must hide his intentions. He must never let his enemies see him sweat. And in modern life, you must become that kind of leader. Not of nations, but of your own nervous system. You master your impulse. You train your tone. You become unreadable not to deceive, but to protect your inner world from those who've never earned access to it. This is not emotional suppression. It's emotional sovereignty. You are no longer just reacting. You are redirecting. refining, restricting, not because you're weak, but because your power is too valuable to bleed into the wrong hands. So next time they push your buttons, say nothing. Let silence answer. Let absence speak. Because when you no longer flinch at disrespect, when you no longer seek to explain the pain they caused, you've already reclaimed the part of yourself they thought they owned. If this message hits something deep inside you, consider supporting this channel through Super Thanks. Your contribution helps us create more content that speaks to your truth. The part of you that's done being used, the part of you that's ready to be unreadable. Don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe for more Machiavellian philosophy and real psychological power. We're just getting started. Let's be brutally honest for a moment. If you've ever felt disrespected, overlooked, used, chances are you were following the wrong rules. Because the world doesn't run on emotional honesty, it runs on perception. And perception punishes those who move without strategy. So let's break this down. Here are the 6 most common mistakes that silently destroy your power. Mistakes you may be making right now. Mistake number 1. Believing that love will fix dysfunction. You thought if you just loved them better, they would treat you better. You made excuses for their chaos. You confused patience with healing. But Machiavelli warned the promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present. Some people use your loyalty like a leash because they know you won't leave. Stop loving harder. Start leaving sooner. Mistake number 2. Over-explaining your worth. You kept proving, justifying, convincing. You thought your honesty would make them understand. But in this world, the more you explain, the less they listen. Power doesn't explain itself. It exists, and it forces others to adjust. So stop selling. Start observing. If they can't see your value, walk. Mistake number 3. Waiting for closure from the one who created the wound. You wanted them to admit it, to apologize, to give you that final word. But here's the brutal truth. People who break you rarely give you clarity, and waiting for it keeps you enslaved to their silence. You don't need closure. You need discipline. Close the door yourself. Mistake number 4. Confusing presence with peace. You stayed. You endured. You told yourself that tolerating pain made you strong. But strength isn't about staying where your soul is shrinking. That's not peace. That's survival. And survival is not power. Learn to protect your peace, even if it costs you the connection. Mistake number 5. Making excuses for disrespect. They were tired. They had a hard life. They didn't mean it. You rewrote their cruelty so many times. You forgot how it actually felt. Here's the truth. Anyone who consistently disrespects you knows exactly what they're doing. They're just confident you'll forgive them again. Make them wrong. Stop tolerating it. Mistake number 6. Thinking emotional honesty is always strength. You were told that vulnerability is power. That openness builds connection. But timing matters. So does context. There is no strength in bleeding before those who don't care. No victory in handing your soul to someone who never earned the right to hold it. Machiavelli didn't say don't feel. He said, don't reveal unless it's a weapon. These mistakes weren't flaws. They were lessons. Every one of them was born from a beautiful place. Hope, loyalty, love. But beauty without boundaries becomes a curse. So now you see clearly what you tolerated, what you accepted, what you gave away, without making them earn it. But this is where it changes. Not by becoming cold, but by becoming unavailable. to the wrong people. From this point forward, you protect your energy like royalty. You speak less, but every word carries weight. You observe more and react less. You let your presence replace your persuasion, because true power, it doesn't beg, it doesn't explain, it doesn't chase. It's felt in your silence, in your absence, in your refusal to be moved by anything that does not honor your value. Niccolo Machiavelli was not a cold man. He was a clear man. He didn't write for the naive. He wrote for those who had been broken and decided they would never be broken again. His philosophy wasn't built on cruelty. It was built on control. Not domination, but survival. Because Machiavelli understood something most people still refuse to face. The world doesn't respond to your intentions. It responds to your appearance. You could be wise, loving, honest, but if you look disparity, if you sound emotional, if you act predictable, you will be treated like a tool, not like a force. That's why his most misunderstood principle still echoes today. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Why? Because love can be taken for granted, but fear creates boundaries, and boundaries create order. In today's world, that principle still applies, but the battlefield has changed. Now, it's not about swords or thrones. It's about presence, perception, psychological gravity. Machiavelli taught that a leader must master the illusion of control, even when everything is falling apart. He must know how to seem composed, while chaos rages behind the curtain, because as long as others believe you're steady, they hesitate. And hesitation is your advantage. He also warned us, a man who wishes to profess goodness at all times will come to ruin among so many who are not good. That means this: if your goodness makes you predictable, if your kindness makes you vulnerable, if your honesty becomes ammunition in their hands, then your morality is no longer strength. It's bait. You must learn when to be kind and when to be silent, when to forgive and when to vanish, when to lead with compassion and when to lead with detachment. This is not manipulation. This is strategy. This is discipline. Machiavelli's genius wasn't just in what he said, it was in what he left unsaid. He never told you to be heartless. He told you to be unreadable. He never told you to be cruel. He told you to be calculated. And in today's world, where every emotion is monetized, where every thought is tweeted, where silence is mistaken for absence, you don't rise by screaming louder. You rise by speaking less and meaning more. You rise by mastering the art of emotional silence. If Machiavelli were alive today, he wouldn't tell you to be loud. He would whisper this instead: you don't need to be loved by everyone. You need to be respected by the right ones. And you earn that respect, not by giving more, but by needing less. Because when you stop explaining, when you stop reacting, when you stop being predictable, you become untouchable. Why? Because people fear what they can't understand. They follow what they can't manipulate. They obsess over what refuses to chase them. That isn't arrogance. That's design. That's sovereignty. So next time you walk into a room, don't perform. Don't seek approval. Don't fill the silence. Stand. Breathe. Wait. Because you don't need to convince them. You only need to command yourself. That is the foundation of Machiavellian power. Not control over others, but command over your own presence. And once you master that, you don't beg for influence. You become it. You have to stop asking, "Why did they hurt me?" and start asking, Why did I allow it? That moment is the beginning of real power. Not when you blame the world, but when you reclaim your role in the script. Because whether you knew it or not, you were playing a part. A role written by pain, by childhood, by trauma, by unhealed beliefs about love, about attention, about what it means to be worthy. And in that script, your silence wasn't strategy. It was fear. Your kindness wasn't power. It was self-preservation. Your loyalty wasn't discipline. It was anxiety, disguised as virtue. But here's the truth no one tells you. You don't have to stay that version of yourself. You don't owe your past any allegiance. You can rewrite the story. Right now. Here's the shift. You are no longer the one chasing validation. You are the one choosing where your energy flows. You are no longer the one waiting to be picked. You are the one who decides what gets access to you. You are no longer the one begging to be seen. You are the one who disappears with dignity. This is the death of the needy self. The self that begged, that over-explained, that stayed too long, hoping they'd finally notice your worth. And in its place, you build something new, something calm, something deliberate, something dangerous. Understand this clearly. You don't win by explaining yourself better. You win by becoming unreadable, by letting your energy, not your words, do the speaking, by letting your silence say what your voice no longer needs to. Stop narrating your pain. Start mastering your presence. Because the less you reveal, the more control you keep, and every reaction you give is leverage they didn't earn. This is emotional sovereignty: to feel everything, but show nothing. To care deeply, but chase no one. To know your worth so completely that even when it's misunderstood, you do not shrink. Because here's what Machiavelli would whisper. If he saw you trying too hard, you do not need to be known to be powerful. You only need to be felt, and people will feel you the moment you stop needing them to dictate. So next time someone pulls away, don't follow. Let them go. Next time someone disrespects your time, don't explain. Withdraw your energy. Next time someone plays games with your attention, don't chase. Disappear. Your absence will say more than your presence ever could. That's the new frame. The new role. You are no longer the performer begging for a seat on someone else's stage. You are the one who controls the emotional theater, not by stepping into every scene, but by choosing which ones deserve your entrance. This isn't emotional suppression. It's emotional architecture. You are building something inside yourself that no one else can enter. A structure where peace is king, where urgency is the enemy, where silence is sacred. Because when you stop reacting to the world starts reacting to you. And that is the moment you stop surviving and start leading. Philosophy is useless if it doesn't touch your habits, if it doesn't change the way you walk into a room, answer a message, or hold your silence. So now let's take everything you've learned and turn it into practice. Let's make detachment your new language. Let's make control your quiet weapon. Here are 6 rules of real-world power. Simple, precise, and dangerous when mastered. Rule 1. Control access like a fortress. Your attention is not cheap. Your time is not unlimited. Your energy is not up for auction. You don't have to be available to every message. You don't owe anyone your instant reply. You don't need to explain your silence. People who are used to your constant access will call your boundaries cold. Let them, because true power begins where availability ends. Rule 2. Master the timing of your presence. Stop showing up immediately. Stop rewarding inconsistency with instant attention. Stop giving urgency to those who treat you like an option. Machiavelli taught, the wise prince doesn't move at the speed of the crowd. He watches. He waits. He strikes when the moment has weight in your life. That means you don't attend every argument. You don't reply to provocation. You don't defend yourself to people who never listened. Your silence, it's friction. Let them sit in it. Rule 3. Speak like a sword, not a river. Most people drown in their words. You won't. You'll make every sentence sound like a decision, not a plea. Never explain when silence says more. Never justify what needs no approval. Never apologize for withdrawing from chaos. If you're going to speak, speak in a way that shifts the room. Rule 4. Respond with precision, not emotion. They raise their voice. You lower yours. They insult. You stare. They provoke. You smile and say nothing. Let them be predictable. Let them reveal themselves. You remain a mirror, polished, silent, reflective, and let them see their own chaos in your stillness. Rule 5. Become a mirror. They can't read. You're not unreadable because you fake it. You're unreadable because you've done the inner work, the shadow work, the silence, the self-discipline. No nervous laughs. No over-explaining. No telltalezies. Just calm, poised, and deeply aware of everything, especially yourself. That's presence. That's psychological gravity, and no one can fake it. Rule 6. Use absence as a weapon. Walk away, not to punish, but to protect your peace. Withdraw, without announcement. Disappear without drama. Let your distance speak. Let your silence correct the disrespect. You don't warn them. You don't beg them. You don't perform closure. You just stop bleeding. For people who never tried to stop the wound. These 6 rules are not about pretending. They're about remembering. Remembering who you were, before the world taught you to beg for love. Before you were trained to confuse access with value. Before silence was mistaken for invisibility. Now you know distance creates respect. Discipline builds presence. And control is the quietest language of strength. From this moment forward, you move like a fortress. You speak like a scalpel. You lead with absence. You conquer through stillness. Because power doesn't announce itself. It's felt without needing to be proven. What does true power look like? Not the version they show you in movies. Not the loud, aggressive, hyper-masculine illusion. And not the passive, overly forgiving saint either. No, the new face of power is quiet, is present, is precise, and is deeply unfazed. The powerful man or woman doesn't perform confidence. They don't shout to prove control. They don't hide behind charm. They don't weaponize vulnerability to appear authentic. They simply exist, in full command of their gravity. They don't seek to be liked. They're driven by something sharper, to be unmoved. They can love you and still walk away. They can listen and still not agree. They can feel deeply and show absolutely nothing. Because they've realized being understood is optional. Being respected is essential. They don't explain their silence. They let it hang. They don't warn you when they're done. They just leave. And when they leave, you feel it. Not because they slammed the door, but because their absence echoes. They don't seek revenge. They outgrow. They don't argue. They decide. They don't say, "I'll show you." They let time do the talking. They don't chase closure. They create distance, not to punish, but to remind the world access to them is earned, not assumed. Their posture doesn't change to impress a room. Their tone doesn't shift to keep the peace. They're not performing. They're positioned deliberately. And that is what makes them dangerous. Not their rage, not their noise, but the fact that they could shatter you and choose not to, that they could expose you but prefer to stay silent, that they could dominate but have nothing left to prove. They don't panic in chaos. They become the eye of the storm. They don't react to insults. They record them and keep building. They don't chase apologies. They build empires in silence. They don't need to be believed in. They believe in themselves so completely that even doubt becomes afraid to approach them. This is the face of power Machiavelli envisioned. Not the tyrant, not the king, but the man so composed that others question themselves in his presence. Because real dominance is not in how many people you control, it's in how few people can control you. So, if you've been misunderstood, disrespected, abandoned, betrayed, good. That pain carved the version of you that no longer flinches. That silence forced you to find a new voice, not to scream louder, but to speak only when it shakes the room. You are no longer here to be soft for a world that sharpens every blade against your back. You are here to be solid, still, and sharp. Not angry, just awake. Not bitter, just zova ein. You don't need to explain your evolution. You need to live it. Because when you stop trying to be seen, you become the one they can't look away from. And they will feel the difference, even if they never understand it. You don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to convince anyone. You don't need to be seen, understood, or accepted. Because the moment you begin chasing perception, you lose control of it. So let them wonder. Let them misread you. Let them fill the silence with their own assumptions. You are no longer here to play defense. You are no longer explaining pain to people who benefit from your confusion. You are not cold. You are controlled. You are not distant. You are deliberate. You are not heartless. You are sovereign. Because what you've built can't be touched. What you've seen can't be unseen. And what you've become no longer fits inside the cage they built for you. From now on, you no longer warn people. You simply walk away. You no longer argue to be understood. You let silence make them nervous. And the next time the world demands a reaction from you, don't give it. Hold the tension. Let your quiet carry the weight. Because when you stop flinching, they start doubting. When you stop chasing, they start craving. When you stop speaking, every word becomes gold. This is your declaration. From this moment on, you do not over-explain. You do not overshare. You do not overstay. You leave when it's time. You observe more than you engage. You protect your peace, like a king guards his kingdom. Because you are not looking for power, you are becoming it. Quietly, completely, without asking. That is how legends move. If this message reached something inside you, you already know what to do. Don't say anything. Just become the one who never needed to be loud to be felt.